Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something more than just a date on the calendar. We're recognizing a threshold moment,
Yeah.
a specific point maybe, of maximum vulnerability but also maximum opportunity.
Right. We are standing precisely on day 285 of the year.
October 12th.
Exactly. And it's that moment when the year isn't really new anymore, but it's also, not quite finished. We've got exactly 80 days left until everything resets. And our sources, they really make it clear this is a kind of liminal space, right?
Yeah.
An in-between zone. It's definitely not that enthusiastic beginning where, we feel invincible.
No, definitely not January 1st energy.
Not at all. But it's this crucial time where that initial momentum, it just often stalls out. People hit a wall.
Absolutely. And that's why this deep dive, it's really purpose-built for these remaining 80 days. Our mission today is to dig into the source material. It talks about the architecture of a successful life.
Yeah, exploring those non-negotiable foundations. The courage you need to stand against all those external pressures and, maybe most importantly, the strategy required to actually finish strong.
Finish strong. That's the...
Because the sources seem to converge on this idea that the biggest enemy to completion isn't really external pressure. It's something internal, this invisible force.
Yeah, let's jump right into that. This central conflict. Defining the antagonist that attacks right at this threshold moment. Resistance.
Resistance, with a capital R almost.
Right. That psychological gravity well that, suddenly makes tidying your desk seem utterly urgent when it hasn't mattered for, the last 300 days? We know, or at least the sources suggest, the closer you get to finishing something, the fiercer, the more insidious that force becomes.
It's like it guards the finish line.
Exactly. And if we want to cross it, we have to figure out a strike first, not just react, but actually take the initiative against it.
And if you want a masterclass in striking first, you really have to look at the process of the novelist Michael Crichton.
Jurassic Park Westworld. That Crichton.
The very same. His success. Yeah, people often talk about his talent for blending science and fiction. That's true. But the source material we looked at suggests his real genius might have actually lain in understanding human psychology, specifically understanding resistance.
Okay, so let's unpack that. The Crichton anomaly, you called it. Because it feels totally counterintuitive.
And he really does.
Most people, when they get to maybe 90% done on a huge project, like a 400-page book, they start to relax, right? Ease off the gas a bit.
Coasting to the finish line.
Yeah. But Crichton did the complete opposite.
He did. It seems he recognized that this internal opposition, this resistance, it actually grows stronger the closer you get to completion. So he didn't just, maintain his discipline. He actively escalated it.
Dramatically.
Escalated. How? Well, the sources detail this famous habit he had. As the final chapters of a novel approached, he'd start getting up progressively earlier. Yeah. So he might start the book getting up at a normal, say, 6 a.m. But by the time he was closing in on the end, he was getting up at 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And sometimes, reportedly, he'd push it even further. To 2 in the morning?
2 in the morning. That sounds, frankly, like desperation, not strategy.
Well, that's the counterintuitive part, isn't it? But the argument is it was calculated strategy. It wasn't just about racing the clock. It was something more fundamental.
Okay, explain that. Why the escalation?
It seems to be a recognition that to beat this powerful internal enemy, you have to outmaneuver it. He wasn't just trying to match the difficulty. He was trying to overwhelm it. By getting up at 2 a.m., he was starting his most important work, his highest leverage work, hours before that. Resistance, that mental drag, that sudden urge to check email or, reorganize the spice rack before it was even fully awake.
He was seizing the initiative, getting the jump on it.
Exactly. He was optimizing for that period when his creative energy was likely highest and that internal drag, that psychological friction, was lowest.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Get the core work done before the mental noise starts.
And he took it even one step further to make absolutely sure there were no external distractions pulling him away.
Which also feed resistance, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're resistance's best friends.
Well,
so he adopted what you might call the nuclear option for productivity.
okay.
He would completely sequester himself. The sources mention he'd often rent a room, sometimes even a whole facility. Specifically, the Kona village on the big island of Hawaii comes up.
Wow.
And he'd go there to do nothing, and they emphasize nothing but right, until the book was completely, truly finished. Put to bed, as they say.
That level of intentionality,
Yeah.
it really drives home the point that his success wasn't just raw talent. It was strategic discipline.
For sure.
And this strategy, it helps us understand the psychological nature of resistance itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
There's that analogy, that universal feeling.
Oh, yeah, the fatigue, the sudden, profound sense of exhaustion that hits you right before a task is 100% finished.
Exactly,
Yeah.
like cleaning a room.
Perfect example. You've scrubbed the floors, dusted everything, wiped down the surfaces, and there are just like 2 socks left on the chair. And bam, suddenly this wave of tiredness just washes over you so deep you think, maybe I need a quick nap before I deal with those socks.
Like, it feels utterly real, physically real.
But it's probably not physical, not really. That's pure psychological resistance.
Yeah.
It's trying to trick you, to convince you to stop at 99%, to ensure you never feel that satisfaction, that power of true completion.
So that moment,
Yeah.
the moment that feeling hits that urge to procrastinate when you were so close, that's the signal flare.
That's resistance launching its fiercest attack. Its last stand, maybe?
So what's the counter move then? Is it always about escalating work like Crichton? Or is there an internal resource we need to tap into first?
Well, the counter move always starts, I think, with Crichton's realization. The internal commitment has to escalate, too. It's not just about more hours, maybe, but more focus, more determination.
Yeah.
And this leads us perfectly from the necessary action, like Crichton's schedule, to the required internal fuel. And for that, we have to turn to the wisdom of Abraham Lincoln.
Ah, Lincoln. Someone who knew a thing or two about resistance.
Understatement of the century. Crichton shows us the how, maybe. Lincoln shows us the necessary internal why, or what the capacity you need inside.
So we're shifting from knowing when to strike to having that internal drive, that necessity to strike in the first place.
Exactly. Lincoln, who faced just unimaginable political and personal resistance, he made this incredibly clear, definitive statement. He said, "Your own resolution to succeed is more important than any other."
Your own resolution. That quote is just foundational, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we really need to pause on the weight of what it excludes.
Yeah.
Lincoln isn't saying resolution is one important factor among many. He's saying it's more important than any other single thing.
Think about that. That means it outweighs natural talent. It outweighs connections, who you know. It outweighs your family background, where you came from. And it definitely outweighs just getting lucky with circumstances or money.
Wow. It really speaks to the ultimate power of what? Willpower. Determination.
Yeah, will. Resolution. Talent, that's often a gift, biological, maybe social, something you're kind of born with or develop early. But resolution, that's a choice. It's a deliberate daily choice you make.
Talent might get you to the starting line faster, maybe look flashier.
Right. But only resolution, that deep internal grit, will push you through those 2 a.m. writing sessions when the end seems impossible, or through that final 1% when resistance is screaming at you.
And thinking about these remaining 80 days,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that resistance is definitely waiting for us, lurking, that internal commitment, that resolution becomes the engine, right? The fuel for persistence.
Absolutely. You can't rely on the fading fumes of January 1st enthusiasm. It just won't cut it now. That resolution, it has to be renewed daily. Sometimes maybe even hourly, especially when the finish line is in sight and resistance is throwing everything it has at you.
Because if you don't have that unwavering commitment dialed up,
Yeah.
that first flicker of resistance, that little voice saying stop,
Yeah.
it'll just build and build until it halts everything you've worked for all year.
It becomes an immovable object unless your resolution is an irresistible force.
Okay, so we need that resolution, that Cretan-level commitment to fight resistance at the end. But, wait. Before we can even successfully fight that battle, we have to make sure the thing we're building, the structure itself, is actually sound.
That's a crucial point. You have to have built something worth fighting for, something that can withstand the fight. And this brings us straight to that architectural imperative laid out by Gordon B. Hinckley.
Right. This is one of those universal principles. Engineering, life, same idea. You can't build a great building on a weak foundation.
Simple, but profound. The superstructure, that's the visible stuff, right? The achievements, the reputation, the final product, no matter how impressive it looks on the outside.
Tall, shiny.
Whatever. It will inevitably crumble if the bedrock beneath it isn't solid.
And this isn't just for buildings, obviously.
Not at all. The sources really emphasize that everything we build, our character, the quality of our work, our relationships, our health, they're all superstructures, and they directly reflect what we've cultivated or failed to cultivate in the invisible world.
The invisible world. Let's linger there for a second, because I think that's where most people neglect the work. It's easy to focus on the visible. What does a weak foundation actually look like in, say, daily life or how someone works. It's not always some huge dramatic failure, is it?
No, rarely. It's usually subtle.
Mm.
A weak foundation isn't built overnight, just like a strong one isn't. It's more like erosion. It's caused by small, consistent lapses in integrity and discipline. In daily life, maybe it looks like consistently poor sleep habits, or chronically avoiding those difficult conversations you know you need to have, or, letting minor ethical things slide because no one will notice.
Okay. And professionally?
Professionally, maybe it's skipping the detailed documentation because it feels tedious, or cutting corners on quality checks, or gossiping instead of focusing. These small, consistent gaps in diligence, in doing the right thing even when it's hard, those are the weak points.
But when the pressure comes.
Exactly. When the winds of circumstance start blowing, a crisis hits, a deadline gets crunched, you face personal pressure, the structure starts to wobble and maybe collapses because that invisible foundational work was skipped along the way.
That's a really powerful way to think about it. It means the real work, the foundational work, is often the stuff we do even when we think it's unnecessary or boring or no one's watching.
That's the heart of it. And this principle, this unseen work, it applies so powerfully to how we influence others, too. How we lead, how we parent, how we mentor.
You mean through example?
Precisely. Our sources bring up that ancient proverb. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it.
Yeah, the first part's familiar. Instill good habits early.
Right. But it's the crucial added observation that really drives the point home about foundations. It says, the best way to train up a child in the way he should go is to travel that way yourself.
Ah, so it flips it. It's not about telling, it's about being.
Exactly. It shifts the whole dynamic from instruction to demonstration. You can lecture about integrity or discipline all day long, but if your own foundation is shaky...
If you're cutting the corners you warn others about.
Yeah. If you exhibit the very lapses we just talked about, then the words are hollow. They're meaningless. People, kids especially, but adults too, they learn far more from watching consistent practice than from hearing sermons. Your life itself has to be the lesson plan.
Your actions have to build the foundation others see. Which leads us neatly to a really key warning in the sources, especially for people who feel they're naturally talented at something. This comes from the basketball legend Bob Pettit.
Yeah, Pettit had this great insight about natural ability potentially being a trap.
A trap. How so?
Well, his point was, if things come naturally to you, if you pick things up easily, you might prematurely decide you've arrived. You think, okay, I'm good at this.
And so you neglect the hard stuff.
Exactly. You neglect the deliberate, often repetitive, sometimes boring practice that's necessary for true mastery. That foundation building phase, which always requires intentional, sometimes painful effort, gets mistaken for something you can just skip because, hey, you're already good.
So the immediate danger is confusing that initial ease with actual arrival. You hit a certain level fast because of talent and you think, okay, done, I'm good enough. I don't need all those drills or the extra reps or the Crichton-like discipline.
Precisely. And the result. According to Pettit and the sources, it's often a person who falls drastically short of their genuine potential. They didn't lack ability at all, but they lacked the intentional foundational building. The mundane, seemingly unnecessary work. The 1,000th free throw practice, the 10th rewrite of that chapter, the 500th rehearsal. That's the work that separates the merely talented from the true masters. That builds the bedrock.
Okay, so we've established foundation requires this intentional, disciplined, sometimes tedious building, even if you're talented, maybe especially if you're talented.
Yeah.
But what's the payoff for all this invisible work? How does it connect to, well, success out in the world?
Well, that's where we link all this consistent behind-the-scenes discipline back to opportunity. And we use Elmer Letterman's fantastic quote about luck.
I like this one.
It's great. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity.
It reframes luck completely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Takes the randomness out.
Totally. It transforms luck from some mystical force, some external lottery ticket, into something almost predictable, an internal outcome based on your effort.
So the idea is we can't control when opportunity might knock on the door.
Nope. That timing is often out of our hands.
But we absolutely control our readiness to answer that door when it does knock.
That's it. The foundational work, the discipline, the practice, the integrity maintained when no one's looking, the 2 a.m. hours if needed, that's the preparation.
So when that unexpected chance suddenly appears, the chance to pitch the novel or lead a big project or step up in a crisis,
You don't panic, you don't scramble, you're ready. Because the foundation is solid. You've got the resolution Lincoln talked about. You've got the discipline Cretan exemplified. You've put in the reps Pettit knew were essential.
And from the outside, maybe to people who didn't see the years of unseen work.
To them, it just looks like you got lucky.
Wow, right place, right time.
Exactly. But you know the truth. You didn't just get lucky. You created the conditions for that luck to happen through relentless preparation.
Okay, so we have the solid foundation, we have the discipline, the resolution to fight resistance, and to be prepared for opportunity. But that structure, our life, our work, it doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? It exists within society. And society is constantly pressuring it to, well, to conform, to look like every other building on the block. So now we need to shift to that external fight, the courage it takes to build differently.
Yes, and Leo Tolstoy defined the societal pressure with just perfect clarity. He said society is constantly whispering to us, think as we think, believe what we believe, dress as we dress.
It's a whisper, not a shout, usually.
Often, yeah. It's passive, but it's incredibly powerful.
Wow.
And persistent. We could call it the gravitational pull of collective comfort.
That's good. The path of least resistance.
Absolutely. To conform requires almost zero effort. Just agree with the loudest voices, follow the trends, accept the status quo. It's easy, comfortable.
Which is exactly why Tolstoy then asserts that any departure from these accepted norms, these customs, requires a large and serious effort.
A large and serious effort. It's not trivial.
No. True understanding, real innovation, genuine integrity, they demand that effort of departure. You have to actively pull yourself out of that comfort gravity.
And you have to do it knowing that the crowd, the collective, will often resent you for making that effort. It makes them uncomfortable.
Okay, but if we know that pull is so strong and breaking away takes serious effort, how do we know which way to go? How do we navigate? Is it just about being different for difference's sake?
No, not at all. And that's where Ralph Waldo Emerson's counsel comes in. He advises us to behave as you think is good, but not following the advice of the crowd.
As you think is good.
The distinction there is vital. It's not about being a rebel without a cause, just being difficult or contrarian. It's about a disciplined alignment, aligning your actions with your own internal compass, your conscience, your reasoned intellect.
Trusting your own foundation, basically.
Exactly. Trusting the integrity of your own foundation, built with that Hinckley-level care, even when the crowd, which, let's face it, might have a very weak foundation, insists you're wrong or weird or rocking the boat.
But that definitely comes at a cost, doesn't it? Conforming, fitting in, that's often the currency for social acceptance. The sources acknowledge this, right? Tolstoy himself admitted, it is bad to irritate people.
He did. He acknowledged the social friction, but he immediately follows that up with a crucial insistence. He says it is even worse to deny the requirements of your conscience and intellect by following the customs of the crowd.
Ah, so that's the real trade-off.
That's the ultimate choice, framed perfectly. It's a long game choice.
Okay, so you need that internal integrity. And that integrity is crucial because standing apart doesn't just mean being different. It sometimes means you have to create something new. When the established path is wrong, or maybe just doesn't exist for what you need to do.
You have to have the courage to invent a solution. And that brings us to the definition of creative problem solving, encapsulated beautifully by Pharrell Williams.
What did he say?
He said, "There's a key for every door, and if you can't find it, you can make one."
I love that. Make your own key.
Right. It speaks directly to refusing to accept barriers as permanent just because they're traditional or established or because that's how we've always done it.
If the existing way, the societal structure, the accepted customs, won't let you do what your conscience says is right or achieve your purpose with integrity.
You don't just give up and conform, you become the locksmith. You forge a new path, create a new key, using your own effort, your own intellect, your own foundation. That act of creation, of making a new way forward, that's maybe the ultimate act of courage against conformity.
And this blend, this fusion of courage, the courage to stand apart in creative action, the willingness to make a new key, it feels like it's perfectly captured in one of the most powerful metaphors in our source material. Martin Luther King Jr.'s description of nonviolence.
Oh, yes. A sword that heals.
Just stop and think about that image. A sword that heals.
The paradox is stunning, isn't it? A sword is historically an instrument of conflict, of severance, often destruction.
Cutting things apart.
Yeah. Yet, King says, when wielded through the principle of nonviolence, driven by love and justice, it becomes an instrument of healing.
How does that work? What does it mean?
Well, it suggests that true courage, this nonviolent force, it absolutely cuts through things. It cuts through injustice, through falsehood, through complacency. It is undeniably a powerful weapon, a force for change.
Like a sword.
Yes, but, and this is the crucial part, it does so in a way that aims to elevate and ennoble both the wielder and the person or system being cut into. It seeks to open up possibility, to mend the brokenness, rather than simply diminishing or wounding or destroying.
So it's defiance, but it's constructive defiance.
Exactly. It allows you to forge your own path, make your own key, the Farrell idea, while maintaining your internal integrity, the Emerson idea, and wielding that kind of sword. It requires immense foundational internal strength, that Lincoln-level resolution we talked about, because its purpose is fundamentally different from its form. You cut to save, not to slaughter.
Okay, so as we're navigating these remaining 80 days, we've got the foundation, the discipline, the courage to stand apart and even heal.
Yeah.
But all this effort, it has to be aimed towards something, right? Toward a definition of success that actually truly matters in the long run.
Yes. And that brings us to Kevin Kelly's absolutely crucial distinction. It's a mind bender for many people. The difference between being rich and being wealthy.
Rich versus wealthy.
Okay, here's the definition from the source. The rich have control of a lot of money. The wealthy have control over a lot of their time.
Control over time, not just money.
Exactly. And then comes the punchline that should, frankly, shock our modern culture. It's a lot easier to be wealthy than it is to be rich.
Whoa, hang on. Easier to be wealthy, control time, than rich, control money. That feels backwards to how we're usually taught.
It does, because we're constantly bombarded with the message that the only way to get control over your time is to first accumulate a massive pile of money. Kelly flips it. He argues that true wealth, with a capital W maybe, is command over your most finite, absolutely non-renewable resource, your time.
And that feels incredibly relevant for anyone listening who's trying to finish this year strong or finish anything strong.
Immensely relevant. If you are wealthy in time, you have autonomy, you have agency, you can actually do the Crichton move. You can choose to get up at 2 a.m. to pursue that deep, meaningful, purpose-driven work, because you control the schedule.
Whereas if you're merely rich,
you might actually be a prisoner to the needs of the money, trapped in endless meetings, forced to take calls at all hours, spending your precious time on things that don't really matter to you, but they serve the accumulation machine, not your life's purpose.
So the goal shifts. It's not just make more money. It's establish structures and habits that grant freedom over time. How do you practically do that? How do you shift focus from chasing richness to cultivating time wealth?
Well, it requires deep, intentional boundary setting. That's huge.
Saying no.
Saying no a lot more. Actively saying no to opportunities that might look good financially but offer zero autonomy. Saying no to commitments that drain your time without adding real value.
Right.
It also involves aggressively eliminating low-value tasks, the busy work that just fills the calendar but doesn't move the needle on what's important. And optimizing systems, maybe financial systems, maybe work systems, so that the money you do earn actually works for you, freeing up your time, rather than you constantly having to serve its demands.
Because that time control, that wealth, dictates whether you can actually finish the novel or build the great building or simply pursue work that feels meaningful rather than work that just pays the bills.
Precisely. And to help us achieve that, to carve out that time wealth, the sources give us two absolutely essential questions. Think of them as filters for cutting through the clutter.
Really?
Simple but powerful. One, does this actually matter? And two, is this essential?
Does this matter? Is this essential?
These are the daily tools for creating time wealth. You hold up every request, every task, every meeting, every notification against those two questions. They cut through all the sediment, the layers of obligations, distractions, accumulated stuff that we often mistake for progress or importance. If you can rigorously apply those two questions to everything vying for your attention in these next 80 days.
You instantly start reclaiming time.
Instantly. They force you to distinguish between just being busy mere motion and actual progress, between the urgent but unimportant and the truly essential work.
Okay, so if time is the greatest wealth we can cultivate using these filters, what's the highest return on investing that time wealth? Where should it ultimately go? The sources offer a pretty stark, maybe even confronting answer when they talk about legacy.
Yeah, it's beautiful, but stark is the right word. It says, in order to be remembered, leave nothing behind but love.
Leave nothing behind but love. Wow. Let's just sit with that for a second.
It forces you to confront the absolute core of your purpose, doesn't it? Think about what that statement deliberately excludes.
Right. Discounts possessions, obviously, but also professional accolades, titles, awards.
Even intellectual achievements, maybe? Ideas published in books companies built. It argues that ultimately the only thing that truly endures, the only thing that transforms lives across generations, is the quality of love and connection we cultivate and share.
So if we define our legacy purely by those external markers, the money, the status, the accomplishments,
We might be dedicating our precious time wealth to the wrong investment account, essentially, building a monument that won't last.
it really recenters the whole human project, doesn't it? Building that foundation, having the discipline, wielding the sword that heals. All of it ultimately needs to serve that highest return, love.
And this necessary shift in focus from external accumulation to internal connection, it's mirrored perfectly by a required philosophical shift in how we approach reality itself. Which brings us to the definition of gratitude provided in the sources.
Okay, gratitude. How is it defined here?
It's elegantly simple, but again, transformative. Gratitude is not about what is received, it's about how you receive what's there.
Not what you get, but how you receive what's already present.
Exactly. So it shifts gratitude away from being just a transactional response. I'm grateful because I got something good. I'm grateful because things went my way.
Right, conditional gratitude.
Yeah. Instead, it becomes an internal posture, a chosen stance towards reality, regardless of the circumstances. It's non-contingent.
And that internal posture, that feels like where true freedom lies. It frees us from being puppets of external events.
Absolutely. We can't control the economy or political chaos or personal crises that inevitably sideswipe us. That's reality. But we can always control how we receive those circumstances.
How we frame them internally.
Yes, and that ability, that choice, allows us to potentially transform difficulty into a powerful gift. If we can receive a challenge with gratitude again, not necessarily being grateful for the horrible thing itself, but adopting a grateful posture that accepts this is what is right now,
Then what happens?
we maintain our composure, we keep our internal equilibrium. It allows us to think more clearly, more creatively, to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting emotionally. It lets us continue building our foundation with acceptance rather than getting bogged down in resisting what is. It frees up energy.
Okay, we've covered a lot. The external battle against conformity, redefining wealth towards time and love, the importance of foundations and gratitude. Now we need to address the final internal barriers. The things inside us that keep us from actually taking those necessary leaps forward, especially in these crucial remaining 80 days.
And the deepest one, the one that really anchors us in place sometimes, is fear.
Fear.
Specifically, the sources are really clear on this. The fear of suffering cripples us.
The fear of suffering.
Yeah. We are so preoccupied, often unconsciously, with avoiding pain, avoiding discomfort, avoiding the hardship that growth inevitably requires.
Like the pain of getting up at 2 a.m. maybe, or the discomfort of standing apart from the crowd.
Exactly those things. And because we're so focused on avoiding that potential suffering, we remain static. We sacrifice our potential for this illusion of safety, of comfort.
And the profound paradox there, which the sources hint at, is that the path we take to avoid suffering often ends up causing more suffering in the long run.
Precisely. By ensuring we remain stuck, unfulfilled, falling short of what we could be.
So what's the way out?
Well, the text suggests something really interesting. Freedom from this fear of suffering leads to a state described as bliss. And crucially, only in blissful states are we able to take leaps forward.
Blissful states. Does that mean we have to be, like, happy all the time?
I don't think it means happy in a superficial sense. I think it means a state of profound acceptance. Freedom isn't the absence of suffering. It's the acceptance that growth often involves necessary pain, necessary struggle. It's okay.
Okay. So it's accepting the potential for pain as part of the process.
Yes. And once you embrace that, once you internalize, okay, this might be hard, it might hurt, but it's necessary for where I want to go, then the leap becomes possible. You're no longer paralyzed by that constant nagging anxiety of what if it hurts, what if it's difficult. You realize the potential hurt is just part of the architecture of growth.
And once we internalize that acceptance, maybe stop being so afraid of the struggle. Does that open up something else?
It seems to. It allows us to see a larger, often hidden vision of ourselves and our capabilities, which takes us directly to Kurt Hahn's really compelling argument about human potential.
Kurt Hahn, what was his view?
Hahn firmly believed that we are chronically, tragically underestimating ourselves. He stated it beautifully. There is more in us than we know.
More in us than we know.
Yeah. And then he adds the crucial part. If we can be made to see it, perhaps for the rest of our lives, we will be unwilling to settle for less.
Wow. If we can just glimpse our true potential.
It changes everything. And this is the gift, maybe, of this specific vantage point we're talking about, day 285. It's late enough in the year that you can look back. You can look back and see the capacity you actually demonstrated when you thought you had nothing left. You realize, wow, I did meet that deadline. I did survive that setback. I did manage to resist the crowd on that issue. You see concrete evidence of your own strength, your own discipline in action.
You catch a glimpse of that more that Han talked about.
Exactly. And once you truly witness your own the capacity to rise early, like Crichton, the capacity to stand apart with integrity, like Emerson urged, the capacity to build a sound foundation brick by boring brick once you see that, settling for comfortable mediocrity starts to feel like, well, like an insult to the potential you now know exists within you.
And that realization, that unwillingness to settle, that's the final essential internal lever for finishing this year strong, isn't it?
It has to be. It provides the enduring motivation when the initial enthusiasm is long gone.
Okay, one last internal lever mentioned in the sources. It's about optimizing this journey, making the path toward our full potential maybe a bit more efficient. It's the shortcut of wisdom.
Yes. We are strongly urged to accelerate our progress by simply utilizing the knowledge accumulated by those who came before us.
The quote is great. Learn from the mistakes of others. We can't live long enough to make them all ourselves.
So true. And this isn't about avoiding all failure. We know some failure teaches unique, necessary lessons firsthand. You have to touch the stove sometimes.
Right.
But this is the ultimate time-wealth optimization strategy, isn't it? If the goal is control over our time and the focus is on what truly matters.
Why waste 3 precious years pursuing a path that someone, maybe centuries ago, already documented thoroughly as a dead end?
Exactly. Why reinvent the wheel of failure when the blueprints for success, or at least avoiding catastrophic failure, are often readily available? By utilizing the documented errors and insights of others, whether they're historical figures, novelists like Crichton, philosophers like Emerson, scientists, artists, thinkers,
We save ourselves potentially years of unnecessary struggle.
we stand on the shoulders of giants, as the saying goes. And that allows us to allocate those saved years, that precious reclaimed time wealth, toward the things that actually matter, the things that are essential for our unique journey. It maximizes our ability to build something meaningful and finish strong, not just this year, but in all the years to come. #outro.
Well, this deep dive has really brought us face to face with the strategic importance of right now, day 285. It's not just another day.
No, it's that critical juncture, the moment where momentum often stalls, where resistance digs in its heels, and where we have to make a conscious, renewed, maybe even escalating commitment to finish the year strong.
Yeah, and we've seen that finishing strong. It requires that robust, disciplined foundation, those consistent, often invisible habits we talked about.
And the courage to actually strike first against resistance, to escalate our effort to meet the escalating difficulty near the end, just like Michael Crichton did.
It also demands that courage to follow your own conscience, your own internal compass, over the gravitational pull of the comfortable crowd.
Yeah, and ultimately underpinning all of it is the need to constantly redefine what success really means. Prioritizing true wealth, which is control over our time,
Right.
so that we can dedicate these remaining days, and all our days really, to the pursuits and the people that define our true, enduring legacy.
And using those filters.
Yeah.
Does this actually matter? Is this essential?
Every single day, day 285 is your moment. It's the time to take inventory, to really activate that Lincoln-level resolution, and decide consciously how you're going to meet the fierce resistance that absolutely guards the finish line.
Because now, hopefully, maybe you've caught a glimpse that there is more in you than you knew before.
And once you truly see that, Han was right. Settling for anything less just becomes impossible, or at least deeply unsatisfying.
So here's the final provocative thought we want to leave you, the listener, with today. Something to carry into these next 80 days. If the sources are right, if we are ultimately remembered not for what we accumulated, but for how we loved, then what specific practical action may be related to love, may be related to reclaiming your time wealth for connection? What one action will you implement in these next 80 days to ensure your legacy starts reflecting your true wealth?
And just one thing, what one thing will you build with the days that remain that truly endures?
Think about the foundation you need for that one action, because the time to start laying it or reinforcing it is right now.
Absolutely. Now is the moment.
We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive.